started.
Good morning. It's 8:05. Welcome to the Prison Board of Inspectors meeting for June 25th. We typically meet the second Thursday of every month, but we wanted to have an additional meeting in June to discuss the prospects of potentially doing some antibody or expanded testing for COVID-19 in our facility. We all know how in a correctional facility setting, the coronavirus can spread more rapidly, and as we look at different ways of measuring it and tracking it with the potential of increased incarcerated individuals coming into the facility with the courts reopening, we wanted to be prepared and have the conversation. So we do have a quorum, and we are going to offer the opportunity at this point for any public comment not related to testing. So we'd be happy to take any public comment at this time.
Commissioner Pipe, this is Connie Martin speaking. Are we going to be talking at all about programming, which I thought was also part of the discussion today?
If you'd like to bring it up, but we're specifically just going to be talking about the antibody testing and the PCR testing. But if we can always answer your questions, Connie, on that. That's fine. Yeah.
Well, I can wait until,
Chris,
the next regular meeting, but that's one of the issues that I'm most concerned about.
Okay. I think we're all happy, Chris. If you wanted to share give an update on programming, we're happy to do that.
Yeah, sure. Like I said, Danielle started her program, in-house program. Our Crossroads has been doing Tuesdays and Thursdays. And also, Dr. Wolf's been doing their programmings. We've still been handing out Mr. Fraley's been handing us a DV for his church services, so we've been getting that out to all the units. So that's our programming as of now. And we're trying to work towards public visitation, which that'll be the July meeting, talking to the board about the meeting on that. But we're trying to prepare the visitation area as well as the change of the times of visiting and so forth. So just more time in between the visits so we can get people out so we don't have a bunch of people at one time inside there for social distances. So, but that'll be a conversation in July that I'll have to bring to the board at that time. But that's what we're doing with programmings and so forth.
Warden Shell?
Yes.
So I didn't know about the programs that you have on have just mentioned. Do you see a possibility? Are you interested in if it's possible for a DVD to come in, or I don't know if you have done any Zooming for the purpose of maybe having yoga classes for the women, or I'm just thinking of the other programs, that the Prison Society does, either yoga or meditation.
That's something we can talk about. We've been doing different platforms for our Crossroads and Dr. Wolf. And of course, Danielle's seeing those individuals in the big room and social distancing. So it's something we could look into.
Okay.
We have the ability. We just have to. They would have to make sure we don't have internet into the housing units. We'd have to come out into one of the other rooms to do that, and depends on that. And we can't cross. Female B2, we could use B2, but we couldn't bring C3 down because we don't want to cross-contaminate the units.
Got it. Okay, so do you see that being more something that we'd use a large TV for, or more the iPads, or?
Well, we have set up right now on a laptop, but we have a TV and we have a camera that we're going to be linking in to use it if we need to use a big TV to be able to see. So yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other items for public comment at this time? I wanted to say, if there are any comments throughout the discussion, please feel free to just unmute yourself. That's the best way to do it, and we can join you into the conversation. So just to establish who's on the line, if we could just each introduce ourselves from the prison board. So when Denise is doing the minutes, she knows who's on the call. So this is Mike Pipe here.
Deb Hager with
Steve
the board.
Steve's with us as well. Jason, are you there?
Yep, Jason Moser, controller.
Okay. Commissioner Higgins.
here. Looks like my video is a little messed up.
Oh, no worries. We can still hear you. And then Judge Oliver. And you might be muted still, Judge Oliver, but we see that you've joined the call. But then also from the Prison Society, if we wanted to also introduce yourselves. So we heard from Deb Hager is here, and Janet had already made, or Connie had made some comments, but Mark or Janet?
Mark
Yes,
Fraley.
I'm here, Janet.
And
Okay.
Mark's here with me. Thanks.
Okay. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so jumping into the main discussion in terms of testing at the facility, Chris, we'll turn it over to you for an overview, and then we can have a discussion about it.
All right, just going through our numbers in our quarantine units in our A1 and B2. Our B2, that's our female unit. We have 8 currently on quarantine, and we have 8 total empty cells, but we only have 20 females in that whole unit. So basically, we have a lot of room yet there in that unit for quarantines if we need to double some people up in that. Our A1 unit, of course, we have our A4 unit empty at this time. Our A1 unit, our count is 17. We have 12 on quarantine. 4 of them will be classified today, brings it down to an 8 total. That gives us about 23 empty beds that we can quarantine individuals into that bed. So we're holding our own right now. Like I said, I know there's some sentencings coming up in July and also August that I've talked with Judge Oliver as well as Judge Rest about that. So we've been, and I thank Judge Oliver for getting the information out to the other judges. I was in court the other day with Judge Marshall, and he even brought up about sentencing an individual, making sure that we sentence on another day somebody else is coming in so we can double those up in a cell. So that was a positive thing there out of our discussions. So like I said, we're holding our own right now. I just worry about when we start getting the more influx of people coming in. So that's where we're at right now.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Any recommendations, or we know that Prime Care has a conference call on a routine basis to discuss some of the potential changes or updates that have occurred from the medical field when it comes to testing, but any changes in what Prime Care is recommending or how they're now testing at facilities?
Currently, no, they're not. They have not brought anything else to the table besides they're looking at antibody testing and COVID-19 testing at the same time. Right now, they're just there's some other facilities that are Dauphin County has another outbreak within their facility. So they're doing, I'm thinking they're doing a mass testing down there as well, and so forth. So they haven't brought anything to our attention, anything new, let's put it that way.
Okay, thank you. Oh, Margaret, it looks like you might be on mute there, Margaret.
So sorry. I just want to let you know that Judge Oliver has emailed. She has lost connection and cannot see or hear the call.
Okay.
Okay.
So any feedback or thoughts from the prison board in terms of testing? We each of us may have done our own research or looking at this, but any feedback that we'd like to offer to Chris at this point?
Can I ask a question? Warden Shell, you were saying in B2 there are X number of women who are in quarantine, and you talked about A1 as well. Is that because they're suspected of having it, or have they come in and you're putting people in quarantine to make sure that they didn't bring something with them?
That's our policy right now. Anybody that comes in new to our facility is on a 14-day quarantine.
I see. Well, it seems to be working.
We try our best here. It's a collaboration between medical staff, admin, and so forth. So it's a whole team effort right here.
Sure.
So just to clarify, Chris, that have there been positive tests since the last time we spoke?
No, since the initial ones way back in April 15th,
Right.
and then after that we had the other 5 that were in that housing unit. So we only had 6 right now. I think we total test 17 negative, 6 positive. So total of 23 that we tested here, and so forth. And we tested 2 for state that's going upstate. And I'm not sure if we ever got the females back.
Yeah, she's gone.
Yeah, she's gone. So that she was another negative, and then we have 1 other male that's being tested for state. Not because he has symptoms, it's just that's what the DOC is requiring us to do before they get sent to a DOC institution right now. We have to test them for COVID X amount of days out and then give them the results. So
Great, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Okay. If there's no other thoughts or consensus from the prison board, we can always revisit this in the July meeting to discuss more. I'll just share my perspective is seeing a lot of basically every day we're learning new things about the coronavirus, COVID-19, and the one thing that has come up lately is that the antibodies for some people are not staying in the system or are disappearing for the people who were asymptomatic. So somebody who may have tested for it and was asymptomatic through these larger studies that have been done, and those antibodies don't stay around for as long as it would for somebody who showed symptoms, was sick, recovered, and then did an antibody test. And so and then of course we don't know if somebody can get reinfected with the coronavirus as well. So I'm a little hesitant to want to use antibodies as a way to admit people or put people in the facility. However, the standard test for COVID-19, the PCR or the PRC test, I think there is a value there in looking at that and doing that maybe on a more regular basis. But the problem with that is CDC guidelines are that only symptomatic people should get tested. So we have that hurdle to cross as well. But there could be conversations we could have further about that. But that's just my thoughts on this. But it's still that still doesn't relieve us with the responsibility of having to bring in more people and having an increase in people and needing to quarantine individuals as they're coming into the facility, which raises a challenge for the staff at the facility. So, Chris, in terms of our numbers, from the population counts that you've been sending out, it does not look like we've seen as much of an uptick yet in our Center County numbers, and just wanted to verify that was still the case.
yeah, it seems like when we get a group in, we kind of get a group out of the jail. So it's kind of working hand in hand in the sense. So we get 4 in, sometimes we get 3 released or we get 5 released because of their minimum is up and so forth. So it's kind of been a wash. So that's why our numbers haven't spiked up. So it's like if you look at our releases, we might have 2 or 3, and our count stayed the same because we received 2 or 3 in from the public. So it's just being a wash right now and it's not a bad thing either. So it's kind of working out.
Absolutely. Okay. Any closing thoughts, comments from the prison board before we look for any other additional questions from prison society members?
Mike Warden, this is Jason. I know as of, I think it was May 28th, CDC guidelines on antibody testing specifically says don't use them for grouping in correctional facilities, and that antibodies can start don't start showing up until 1 to 3 weeks after infection. So I would have some concerns using the antibody testing for to sort of, I guess, clear somebody to be in the facility. So I think I'm on board that the PCR testing is the one that continues to make sense, but I'm not sold on antibody testing right now as maybe a gauge to allow people into the facility. And I don't know if that's been updated since May 28th, but that's the most recent, at least, on the CDC site about antibodies.
Yeah, this is Mark. I know there's been some significant backups and backlogs in the testing. Has anybody checked with PrimeCare recently to see how long their backlog is, and if it is, more than a couple days, what they're doing to whittle it down?
PrimeCare is actually reaching out to other laboratories if they're not able to use their laboratory in Jersey. If they're not able to give them back in 2 days, they're looking at other closer laboratories that can take care of that in a quicker manner. So they are looking into that and always researching out and trying to get us the results back as quick as possible.
Thanks, Chris.
Yep.
Okay. Again, any other comments on this from the board? Okay. From prison society members, we're happy to hear your thoughts on this. You obviously have contacts with other facilities, and we know Chris does as well through his association with the Wardens Association and COs, but we're always happy to hear your feedback as well from the prison society.
Commissioner Pipe, this is Connie, and I just am curious to know what the status is of taking referrals from other counties. Are we on hold with that, or are they continuing to send their admits?
So at our April or May meeting, we had a discussion specifically on that. The warden wanted to take our temperature if we should continue that, and he outlined how he was going to be continuing to receive those individuals and the protocols in place. Very high standards, very excellent precautions that he was taking, and we had green-lit it to continue doing that, and but always with the understanding that if we needed to scale that back, that would be at his discretion. But he could maybe give you a little bit more of an more insight into that and what the status is.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to echo a little bit what Commissioner Pipe said is we're looking at each individual. Of course, Huntington is our sister county or brother county, however you want to call it. Of course, they don't hold females, so our doors are always open to them. And one thing we worked out with Judge Zanuck over there, because we have a very good relationship with Judge Zanuck, that when they are detained, when the police department has those individuals, that they do not go to Huntington County Jail at all, that they must be arraigned and then brought to us directly. So it would just be like coming from Center County. So we've been doing that on a regular basis with Huntington. Has that worked out very well? No other county really reached out to us. School kills counts down as right now. I know they're starting to get an uptick. I know Lycoming is having social.
American Socialist Workers Party.
Not sure if it's American, but they're having a march over there. It's not the Black Lives Matter. I think it's the opposite. Lycoming's a little worried about that, so they may reach out to us when it comes closer to the time to send some of their individuals our way, just to eliminate some of their housing, so they will be able to have that uptick in case that March becomes goes the wrong way. Let's put it that way. So they reached out to us, but they said they'll let us know more closer to that date sometime in July. And of course, Warden Shoemaker, he understands that we have a protocol. Their medical squad gives us all their medical information, and then of course we're going to put them on quarantine once they arrive here. So yeah, we do all of that prep before we take anybody at that point.
Thanks very much.
Mike, I had a question.
Sure.
So I'm actually pretty sure that you covered this at one of the earlier Board of Inspectors meetings, but just to clarify, there's a reason why you can't just test people who are coming into the facility so that it's a 5-day and then get the test results back. There's a reason why we have to do it for 14 days. I guess I can't remember why we couldn't just test everybody who's new and get them out of quarantine more quickly. Can someone explain that?
Sure. Chris, if you'd like to.
Yeah, so what it is when you do the COVID swab, that is just taking a snapshot of that day. That doesn't mean that they're clear to be able to come into our facility and say that they don't have COVID, because they might not have symptoms until 4 or 5 days after. If they were just in contact with somebody that day or 2 days before, we do that snapshot. That's not going to give us a realistic of what possibly he's carrying in his body at that point. They're just saying if he has active or dead COVID-19 virus inside them. So why we do that, we can do that swab, but it's just a snapshot for that day. We don't know that 4 days from now, all of a sudden they got symptoms, and now we just put them in our housing unit, and now we got 40 other individuals or returning citizens being exposed to somebody that has symptoms at this point.
Yeah, no, I get it now, and I'm recalling now that that's the reason I couldn't bring it to mind.
Okay. Any final questions before we look to end the meeting? Any other questions, comments? Okay. So going into the July meeting, we'll be meeting again in July, and we will have this as a topic again for discussion. And to go to your point, Connie, we will absolutely be talking about programming, outside visitors, continuing that conversation. But we thank everybody for the opportunity today to have a special meeting or an additional meeting in June. And again, we'll look forward to seeing everybody in July. Any final comments or questions from anybody before we look to adjourn the meeting? Okay, Warden, anything you wanted to leave us with? Any other updates or anything? Looks like we're good to go. But anything you wanted to add?
No, just thank the board for working with us through these trying times.
Thank you for all the work you're doing as well with your team. We heard Melanie there in the background, so thank you, Melanie, as well. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, Mark Higgins.
Second, Jason Moser.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks.